All right, let's kill the music and get right into it. Welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris. I'm one half of your show, which is, of course, People's Pundit, Rich Baris. Barnes will be here in a second. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and to share them far and wide. All right, before Barnes gets here, I'd like to kind of give a background here of what we're going to do here today. We got like an hour on Watto, and it's basically an extension of the conversation that we started to have on Road Rage with Rich on Locals this morning. All right, which is something that I predicted about a year ago and expected fully to happen, unfortunately. But I think we need to separate or make a distinction between two things. All right, and they're very clear. Of course, like I said, we're all over the place on X at people's underscore pundit. Same thing on Getter, Truth Without It, and of course on Instagram. Go follow the gram. The link is in the description below. But the best place to follow us is always on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com and sportspicks.locals.com for Barnes. All right. Yeah, it's like, Kentucky, Vegas, whatever it may be, it's always a little bit tough. But Barnes tweeted something that went viral over the weekend. And as I did a focus group on Saturday, so before he gets on, I'm going to tee this up. I did a focus group on Saturday, and he tweeted something over the weekend before I even had a conversation with him about the content of this focus group or what we were hearing during the focus group. And now this morning, all right, with a couple of things said about it in between. Now this morning, there is very clearly what I expect. There are polls coming out, which I'm going to tell you to take with a grain because there are basic standards of disclosures that pollsters have to release. You can't just put up a cool little graphic and expect everybody to take you seriously, even though some organizations think they have the clout to do that, and they do. And often, unfortunately, media outlets just print what they say without actually determining how the poll was conducted or whether it was a legitimate poll or not. All right, so Barnes is getting on. I see him. So before we let me just pop this up real quick. So this is what Barnes tweeted, all right? He said, those who defended Israel, like myself, and by the way, I'm in there, have been proven wrong. Those who warned Israel would drag us into a broader war, which is, of course, Scott Horton has been arguing this for years. Scott predates social media debate on this stuff, guys. All right. Scott's been around since like Iraq. All right. And then, of course, Barnes also brought up Glenn Greenwald and Aaron Mate. So with that in mind, let me bring Robert on. Robert, this has got to be how we start the show with everything going on here. All right, so this tweet goes berserk. All right, and I mean, if you just scroll through the comments, of course, there is a massive monetized social media campaign to corrupt X. Now, if you go to Instagram, if you go to TikTok, Jack Posobiec and I were talking about this morning. If you go to the recording of my focus group on Saturday, you will see something very different than what you see on X. All right. Yet still, this tweet went crazy. You can scroll down, and once you get past the very clear paid to posters, I mean, there's scores of people who are like you and I, who once defended Israel, who agreed with you on this. So first of all, let me just get, before I go rolling through what I think, I'm going to go from here to something Glenn Greenwald said, now to this, what I suspect to be a fake poll this morning, meant to like go after Tucker and silence critics. But there's a conversation to be had about this, because you and I, this is how Mark Levin and I got in a public fight. Like, if you do this, what you will accomplish will backfire. You will kill your support in the United States, and you will create anti-Semitism. I got called an anti-Semite for saying that, of course, but exactly my point. So what was your thinking when you put this up, first and foremost?
Well, I mean, I think it's due those people like Scott Horton on that side of the aisle, because when people like me, when others publicly defended Israel against their criticism, sometimes I was actually very harsh towards their opinions.
Yep.
The premise was that the Israel coalition with conservatives in the United States would not be abused for Israel's self-interest at the expense of America's self-interest. And what has happened, and the reason why people don't know the backstory, the reason why Tucker started going hardcore on this is because he was seeing the same thing we were seeing, which was anybody who had ever voiced any kind of skepticism of any kind at all about Israel was being removed from the Trump administration from the very beginning. People that were supposed to be there that are not there. People like Brandon Weichert, people like, remember Dan Caldwell, all the folks that were going to keep Hegseth in line and pointed towards a more populist direction. All of them were removed on fake and false allegations of leaking. The real reason is they had voiced skepticism of Israel. High-ranking Pentagon officials removed because they had voiced any. I'm talking about people who are deeply pro-Israel, but are just not obsessively, what's the word? Obeisance, obsessive, whatever the word is. Just obey Israel at command.
Obedient, just like total fealty, Robert. Total
correct.
Fealty.
Yeah, total deference, like our president is. People are pretending he isn't. There's now been a dozen articles confirming this all across the country.
Which I know
anyway. he got dog walked into this war by Bibi Netanyahu. Yeah. And the same, like he got dog walked into the attacks in the summer by Bibi Netanyahu. Like he got dog walked into letting Bibi try to raise Gaza to the ground, causing the public. I see it as ethnic cleansing, but most of the public sees it as genocide. That's because Trump didn't hem him in. He hemmed him in the beginning and then quit hemming him in. And so so as we watch this unfold, what the critics, people like me that defended Israel, said, no, Israel's not going to break the coalition. Israel's not going to destroy the opportunity of Trump 2024's election. Israel's not going to sabotage the entire administration and only make sure Christian Zionists are back in charge and key positions in the military and aspects of the State Department governing Israel. That they're not going, and most critically, that they're not going to dog walk us into a larger war. People like us, we're wrong. People like me, we're wrong. Yeah. Scott Horton said, yes, they will. Glenn Greenwald said, yes, they will. Aaron Mate said, yes, they will.
We were wrong.
Dave Smith said, yes, they will. So when a comedian is more accurate than everybody else, you realize just how bad it is concerning Israel. And so I felt obligated to say, the Megyn Kelly confirmed, said it feels the exact same way. Tucker Carlson, in many respects, feels the exact same way. These are people that have been betrayed by the Israel lobby in the United States, like American people have been betrayed by the Israel lobby in the United States. Right now, they're making Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes look prescient. Increasingly, people like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes are gaining more public support within the Republican primary electorate than others. Why? Because they were the ones saying Israel is a risk, and people like us were saying it wasn't. So it was time to just come to terms with it. The reality is Bibi's Israel is a imminent risk and danger to American security, American peace, American prosperity. But it is destroying the MAGA coalition. We are going to get wiped out in the midterms because of this war. Democrats, here's my prediction. My prediction right now is Democrats are going to win more than 240 House seats. Yeah. Democrats are going to win at least 52 Senate seats, maybe more, maybe 53, maybe 54, maybe 55. The places that nobody is thinking at risk, Texas, South Carolina, Nebraska, are in fact at risk. You're seeing this in the prediction markets. Since this war started, now it is almost a majority sentiment that Democrats will win the House and the Senate in the prediction markets. That was a 15-20% option just a few months ago. It was less than a third option before this war started. So all these people who put money where their mouth is, unlike all these big talkers on social media who are just getting paid, your Laura Loomers of the world, others who are getting paid under the table. Laura Loomer implicated in the pay-for-play pardon scheme
scandal,
being run by Pam Bondi. So I've always said that if I'm going to be wrong about something, I'm going to say it and admit it, acknowledge it. That's the reason why I like prediction markets. It forces me to be public about what I think was going to happen. And if I get it wrong, I should explain why or how I got it wrong. Sometimes you can be right about the probabilities, but those probabilities are not certainties. But in this case, it was a bet that the Israel lobby would not sabotage the Trump 2024 coalition, would not kill the 2024 realignment, and would not drag us into a broader regional war that could lead into even a world war. And Israel has betrayed all three. The Israel lobby has betrayed all three. Bibi Netanyahu has betrayed all three. They are the great traitors to the Trump coalition, and I, for one, will never forgive them for it.
Listen, what you're saying is actually important because this morning, well, first of all, this came up. Two things came up in a focus group. I don't know who he is, but there's a guy on X. His name is, it's like A Newsman, which is hilarious. A Newsman. Nobody seems to get it. They're like, oh, well, I have literally seen people in his replies say, aren't you Jewish and you're being anti-Semitic? Like, dummies. A newsman. Okay. It's just so stupid. But this goes to what I'm saying. On Saturday, what you're saying and what he posted, which was, and I can show it in a second, came up. One was a resentment. And we started to have this conversation on locals, this morning before I went to the gym. I always do my road rages with Rich. And this is what I was trying to convey to people. And I think the Israel First crowd knows it. So now they're trying to turn, like, I don't believe this fake poll we're going to look at in a second. Like, but now they're trying to turn it, this disagreement. What you're talking about is a disagreement over foreign policy that people like you and I have had with Glenn Greenwald over the years, with Scott Horton over the years. And you and I defended Israel. We, when we were trying to convince certain people to support Donald Trump, which now we could just outwardly say, just because I'm a pollster doesn't mean I don't have my own views. One of the things from the leftists that were what's the word? They were hesitant, right? They were like, I love what Trump's saying on this. I love it. And the realignment was pulling them over, like the Tim Pool kind of wing of and now Tim Pool's totally out of that wing, of course, for now, obviously. But like those leftists, the traditional liberals that were coming over to Trump's camp, one of the biggest hurdles was this. Like, he is too close with people in Netanyahu's camp. He's too close with the Republican, Jewish lobby, which is really what it is. And he'll get dog walked into a war. And this is going to turn out to be the biggest lie or the biggest breaking of a promise since read my lips, no new taxes. And people like you and I were like, that's not true. We know this from the first administration. Something you tweeted that. And then what Newsman said was totally different, which is like a big part of the breaking of this promise is that Trump ran that he doesn't need donor money. He's self-made. He's rich. And the truth is, people brought that up on Saturday. They were like, look, what the hell? This guy was supposed to be the guy like who could resist all of this pressure because he's self-made. He doesn't need their money. He doesn't bow to them. It's not like the model. Trump's campaign model was different than any other presidential candidate. And that was attractive to so many people, even though they didn't personally like him and certainly even didn't agree with everything he was saying. They still voted for him because they were like, you know what? This guy's his own man. Here's what they don't know. All right. In Trump 1.0, he ran. Wall Street was 3-1 donations in favor of Hillary Clinton. Most of the Israel First crowd right now that's pretending to be MAGA was donating to Hillary Clinton. That's a fact. I mean, Howard Lutnick, for crying out loud, the guy's commerce secretary, was not only a Clinton supporter, he was a Clinton funder, a donor. All right. And Trump didn't take money from not just, the Israel First crowd, but like, well, there's intermingling, but the Wall Street crowd, he didn't take that money. When he was running for president in 2020, he was already an incumbent president. So if you gave Trump money, it was just to hope that Trump would give you a seat at the table. It wasn't that you knew you were buying anything. Here's what happened in 24. Here's the difference. Yeah, Donald Trump was a billionaire. He was a billionaire with a lot of assets locked up from lawfare. They almost took Trump Tower from him. He was not the same financial position that he was in the first 2 times he ran for president. That's a fact. So when he took this money this time, it was like every other politician who took that money. All right. And it's just, I don't want to admit this. I don't like it. I don't like even saying it out loud, but it's the truth. It was a different agreement, a different arrangement, than last time. That doesn't excuse Donald Trump. All right. I'm not excusing him here because this resentment you're bringing up is being confused with like anti-Semitism, which I believe we will have to study because I do think, unfortunately, I predicted it a year ago. I'll show the clip. I have it pinned to my X feed right now. It is the post that got me into a fight with Mark Levin first, or at least the first time I noticed him attacking me. When I said, you keep going after Tucker, you keep going after Megyn, you keep sending unpopular people in advocating for an unpopular position and an unpopular country against people who are popular. Okay, then you are not going to, and this is not going to end well for you. And in truth, if you wind up getting what you want, it'll end up creating more anti-Semitism. Like, this is a very well-known phenomena studied in social science, Robert, forever. And they took that to mean like, you're blaming the Jews for people who hate them? Like, this is a well-known studied phenomena in my field. All right. You are getting a typical negative backlash. And Glenn Greenwald, after you did that, posted this, and I don't know why it's not going up. Where is it? Come on now. Let me remove it. There we go. Glenn Greenwald posted this shortly after you in response to Piers Morgan, because now they were calling Piers Morgan an anti-Semite. All right. What did Piers Morgan do? Piers Morgan had people on his show who represent the majority view toward this war. All right. That's all. That's it. All right. He allowed debate. He got personally critical of the policy, that Israel has had. What they're doing in Iran right now is what they did in Gaza. And just so Americans, let me explain something to you. This is not 2003 anymore. What you are doing in that country is going to stain your legacy. All right. Like this is an intentional, and many people probably don't know this. I might even be breaking news right now. The bombing of hospitals and a school is intentional. It's waging a campaign of terror on soft targets in the hope that they force the population and the regime into submission. They can't do it through military strikes. We all know air bombing campaigns do not have the power to conduct regime change. So this is absolutely intentional. You bring that up like Piers did, and you are an anti-Semite. Okay. So here is Glenn Greenwald saying, my entire life, the worst thing someone could be accused of was anti-Semitism. Nothing destroyed careers and reputations with greater certainty, speed, or force. Now, nobody gives a shit. It's been so cynically weaponized to shield Israel that Zionists have utterly trivialized it. Robert, here's the thing. That's what leftists do. This is what leftists did with racism, misogyny, what else, bro? Islamophobia, all of this nonsense. And nobody is comfortable using these tactics unless you are a leftist. Right-wing people in the mind don't do this. They don't think like this. So if you're comfortable doing this, you're not right-wing. There's nothing right-wing about you. Your mind isn't wired to be right-wing, like not truly right-wing. Right. So I just found this funny, this overuse of the word. And then we get this morning. Did you see this poll this morning? It is from a JCF survey, which is the, of course, right. We all have interests. 45% of young Republicans see Jews as a threat, according to a new survey by Dr. Erwin J. Mansforth and Dr. Charles Jacobs. Nearly half of young Republicans surveyed say Jews pose a threat to, quote, the American way of life. Listen, you just said something earlier that almost echoed that, only what they're trying to make it sound like is that it's Jew hatred. What they're saying is, you stole our presidency from us. You fucking stole the last chance we had to write our own ship. Because this is what people don't understand, what the Israel First people didn't get. All you had to do was wait till year 3, and those young Republicans would have supported you. Iran was not going to nuke you off the face of the earth. Israel has hundreds of nuclear weapons. Iran has 0. So cut the shit with they were an imminent threat and Israel was going to be gone, let alone that they had nukes with warheads pointed at like Chicago or something. Those are lies. And the young people know it. They're not BS'd by Mark Levin the way he BS'd his audience all through the Iraq War. It's not 2003 anymore. And what you did is create this resentment that you took their last chance away from them. And you think they're going to like you for this? I mean, what are they supposed to do? Bend over and take it? No. This was always going to create this horrible, horrible backlash, Robert. And unfortunately, I think they're obfuscating the difference between like policy and like hatred toward a people. But I do think that it's probably likely there will be a rise in anti-Semitism, which was the entire point of this tweet that I put up, which got me into the fight with Mark Levin. The longer the stuff from Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, and Ted Cruz and company continues, the more real anti-Semitism they will create, and support for Israel in America will be doomed, regardless of how much money they put into the system. Look at the date of that post. This was back when we originally put up, we had just, a month ago, had done the poll with showing young MAGA actually sympathizes with the Palestinians more than they sympathize with Israel. Now Gallup came out, the Pew survey came out. So like, we of course forecasted this. We of course knew this was going to happen. You and I did shows about it, and now here we are. Like, so what are we to do about it?
The other, I mean, what's happening fundamentally is what we predicted in the summer last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
People can go back and look and review we went into a deep dive into public opinion towards Israel. We did a separate one on public opinion towards war that has forecast and foreshadowed everything that has happened since. And we did a separate one on Israel. What's public opinion towards Israel? What has it been historically? The unusual nature of Christian Zionism as a political movement, that it was greatly exaggerated in terms of its influence amongst the electorate, but broadly influential amongst decision makers of a certain boomer generation. So I recommend and encourage people to go back and watch that, because we did a massive deep dive that's forecasting what's happening now. Now, what they're doing and putting out, what's amazing is their reaction to the rejection of the Israel lobby in the United States has been to use as a shield anybody who criticizes the Israel lobby or Bibi Netanyahu is anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic. Now, the problem with that, of course, is Israel is not synonymous with Judaism. No. In fact, most Orthodox Jews reject the idea of Zionism as heretical to Orthodox Judaism.
Right.
Many of the harshest, most vicious critics of Israel come from the Jewish left, whether you're talking about Chomsky, Finkelstein, Aaron Mate, Max Blumenthal, Dave Smith. Many of these people are Jewish. So it's the secular Jewish left has long also rejected Israel. Israel's a country that's a very pro-abortion country, pro-lesbian, gay, bisexual, all of that. So it's not exactly aligned. The limited crit, to give just a short distillation, the Christian Zionist movement as a meaningful political movement didn't emerge into the United States until the 1970s. Most evangelicals were skeptical of Israel and its foundation, going all the way back to the 1940s. Christian Zionism was a political movement of convenience when the religious right was emerging as a politicized operation in the United States, which primarily happened due to the secularization of the culture and the attack on those values, on religious values in that culture, and particularly in public schools. That led to a homeschooling and religious school movement in the 1970s that was misconstrued by President Carter as a racist movement, because in the Deep South, they had created white Christian schools to get around integration. But that isn't what was happening in places like Hillsdale, Michigan, long affiliated with civil rights, or Kansas or Nebraska or Tennessee. And so what happened is they started to become politically active, and AIPAC came and pitched him. AIPAC used to be called a Zionist coalition. They realized that didn't sell well politically, so they rebranded as what is effectively a lobby on behalf of a foreign nation. They may not be direct foreign agents because they have U.S. funders, but it's almost indistinguishable from it. And if this was Russia or something else, it would be blasted and negatively criticized every day on mainstream media. But they basically created a coalition in the 70s, and they solicited the new televangelist preachers, including they particularly targeted preachers that had a big reputation, that had recently run into scandal, often lost their churches because they were giving the missionary position to their secretaries. And so,
right, brother. Come on.
Consequently, they propagandized the heck out of the boomer generation, and they were able to get buy-in at an elite level. But I mean, people like Paula White is a scam artist. It's a disgrace that the president has her running around as a Christian leader. She's not respected as a Christian leader amongst any of the Christians I know. She's usually busy. She's like Arsenio Hall from Coming to America. If you really love Jesus, I should be driving a Rolls Royce. That's who Paula White is. So these are frauds, fakes, phonies. They're like Cartman from South Park pretending to be a preacher so he can roll around in the cash at the end. They are the caricature of evangelicals that has been bred by bad faith actors that get caught in scandal after scandal after scandal. By the late 80s, these people were my generation, Gen Xers, have nothing to do with this. Zoomers and millennials the same. This is why the reason why they're doing that poll is that evangelical Christians under the age of 50 do not have a worshipful approach to Israel.
No.
In fact, when they hear that nonsense from the Huckabees of the world, hold on a second. My religion requires that I worship some politician in a little country. Okay, I'm just going to call myself Israel. Everybody's got to worship me now. I'm
Very
Israel, everybody.
damaging.
I'm just going to. That's as logical as worshiping a politician in some little country who doesn't even believe what you believe.
Very damaging to the body of Christ. The mixing,
absolutely,
the
it's
neocons
hurting the evangelical movement, not helping all of this garbage. Because a lot of didn't even know people believe this nonsense in certain parts of the boomer generation.
That's right.
Like Haig's death, which is my new name for our Secretary of War. Is one of these nuts that wants to build a third temple to bring in the apocalypse to kill everybody. Kill everybody. Look, that's what the apocalypse is, everybody. In case you haven't found that out. Before the second coming of Jesus, is pretty much everybody dies. Or a whole bunch of people die, including all the Jews that are right there.
They don't care. They don't care. They don't care, though. They don't. Let me just be real about something. Yeah. They don't care. These doomsday people, they think that they have a place next to God, and they don't care about anybody else. That's just, look, guys, let me just for backup for what Barnes was just saying. By the way, I brought this up. If you go back all the way, my God, 4 years ago, this is where we were. This is why real men admit when they're wrong, which is what a bunch of all the wannabe D-riders on social media are getting paid to post. You should be doing that right now, because Barnes and I were absolutely right. Not only about the politics of war and the politics of how the fallout would be with Israel. And if you really cared about Israel, you should care about this. Not only about that, but of course now the fallout and what it's going to do to the midterms. But look, 4 years ago, there's Barnes and I, why America First stands with Israel. I mean, so we're not, some of those, those people. 7 months ago, public opinion trends on Israel in the United States. Then 6 months ago a little over 3, Israel image takes massive hit in public opinion. That was in response to the poll that we put out. Now we have the Gallup poll, which we just covered, a week ago, showing that for the first time ever, Americans have more sympathy toward Palestine than they do toward Israel. And this is going to breed a deep, dark, and that's what I'm worried about, like dark resentment, because like the Tuckers were never anti-Israel. Guys, this was Tucker reacting. For those who aren't being just disgusting liars, Tucker did what he did. And I think the Fuentes interview was a big middle finger to them over this. He did what he did because it became clear. Those of us who are like in this, in this world, for the first time in Tucker's entire career, it became clear to him that this never was a good faith argument. This never was a good faith debate, Robert. Only idiots like you and I thought it was, and Tucker thought it was. You were never allowed to step out of the box at all. You were never allowed. You had to show total fealty and submission to this worldview. And if you didn't, they would attempt to destroy you. The funny thing is, like, we live in a different world now. Like Glenn said, you can't really destroy everyone like that anymore. Like, I've had this guy who's been Israel first since like the DeSantis campaign saying he's going to end my career. It's hilarious. The dude is obviously Israel first, and we all know his real name now, his real name on X. It's hilarious. It's just a total joke. You don't have the power to destroy me. You don't have the power to destroy Tucker. What you do have is the power to destroy yourself. Because, I mean, we just pulled this. And by the way, the White House saw it. This is the dumbest PR move I've ever seen, to attack people who are, because the right is fractured, regardless of what all these Fox boomacons and, these fake polls are suggesting. The right is fractured, and you're attacking people who are like the very few people who actually still do have reverence across the right. Or majority favorable opinions or views, like the right still looks at them that way, and I mean, look, let's not forget, brother, before Charlie was assassinated, they were attacking him too.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
He's the most popular person on the right, posthumously alive, whatever. He's the most popular, most liked person on the right. And he had, and I know he had text messages from people calling him an anti-Semite. People he's known for years calling him an anti-Semite. That's what happened before Charlie died. That was the state of things back then. Let's not forget.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to my knowledge, all of the Israel lobby people, even after Charlie's death, have cut off all funds to Turning Point as punishment for simply having Tucker Carlson on, even though he came on after Ben Shapiro. So that gives you an idea for who the Israeli lobby is. Basically, the Israel lobby broke their promises to the MAGA coalition, the OG MAGA coalition,
The OG,
not the constantly redefining and incredibly
Nikki Haley
shrinking.
supporters.
Yeah, incredibly shrinking Donald Trump version. But as we transition into some other topics for this abbreviated version of what are the odds? To your core point, the reason why anti-Semitism is rising is because the Israel lobby hides behind attacking its critics as anti-Semites. Consequently, they are convincing millions and millions of Americans that to be anti-Israel is to be anti-Semitic, and more and more Americans are okay with that. That's why they should not be hiding behind a religion as their country. Their country is frankly anti-religious. Israel as a whole, it's a very secular country. Most of the people there are not practicing Jews at all. No. Many of them look down on Orthodox Jews and always have.
That's why they're a minority bloc, brother. That's why.
Correct. Orthodox Jews are a tiny minority of the Israeli electorate. There are more Arab Muslims than there are Orthodox Jews in Israel. So but because they want to equate, hey, if you criticize this, it's how racism emerged on the right. They kept saying if you criticize they started to openly embrace racism and sexism on certain parts of the right, because the left kept saying, hey, if you don't like DEI, if you don't like trans, if you don't like this, you're anti-woman, you're anti-black. And there are more and more young people in the Fuentes crowd. They're like, okay, we'll take that. So they are creating, the anti-Semitism is being created by Israel, by its lies and by its lobby. And if you don't want anti-Semitism to surge in the United States, you should start to separate the cause of Israel from Jews, because the two have nothing to do with one another functionally and fundamentally, since Zionism was built on an religious Judaism movement. It was the Rothschilds who helped create the nation of Israel. And, they were usually busy and engaged in incestuous marriage to pay attention to Orthodox Jewish traditions. So that's why they're all over the Epstein files. The most commonly named family is the Rothschilds. Israel is why Trump sabotaged the Epstein files in terms of his handling of it, and it's why he's now at war in Iran, and it's why the MAGA coalition is collapsing in real time. So
Speaking of which,
it's not all. To be clear,
ballad from yesterday. Look at this. This is so bad. Actually, this is partly of today. I'm hearing. Okay. It's the panel. Okay. I will combine the phone and the panel just to give everybody an update so they can see. In case you can't tell, it's D+9. Okay, that's the certainty to vote, likely voter model. The registered voter, Robert, is still kind of like, I don't want to say close. It's like 4 points. That's not really close. But MAGA's collapsing in that they're not voting. Like Gates, he nailed it in the interview. Gates, I was on the show on Friday night, and he was like, what does this do? Isn't this not two-dimensional at all? Isn't this not just support or oppose? This is about who you demoralize, who you chase away. That's what's going on here. And the reason why some of these fake, all of a sudden polls we're supposed to believe know how to poll MAGA. They couldn't for 10 years, bro. But now they know how. What they're not telling people is that MAGA has shrunk. So you're going through a purification through subtraction. 98%, all right, of 30% is far less than 95% of 40%. You understand? It's very basic arithmetic. It has shrunk dramatically, and a lot of these independents, a lot are really form a MAGA. A year ago, they called themselves MAGA, and they're not calling themselves MAGA anymore. So they're going into the pollsters independent. The only reason why we know is because we track, we dedupe, we data append, we do all, so we know who they are. And other pollsters like Fox, they're like Boomacon pollsters, like that's all they're doing, bro. Like they're not telling people that the share of what is MAGA has dramatically declined, and the coalition is being shredded right before our very eyes. Like I don't think I've ever seen, it's like the biggest political comeback in history has been exploded in a 14-month period. It's stunning. It's stunning, bro.
Yeah. It will go down as the great betrayal, and all the reasons why. It's like a Greek tragedy at this point.
Yeah, it's Greek tragedy.
And so in terms of Trump's handling of things, I think if you're on that side of the aisle, you have to start looking at other options and alternatives down the road. But I mean, the politically, I know people seem to think we create the reality. We
It's
simply report
impossible.
the reality.
It's impossible.
We're not creating the. The last thing we wanted in terms of personal preference, was for the MAGA coalition to fall apart,
Of
for the
course.
Trump 2024 coalition. We wanted it to become the permanent realignment, not to become completely misaligned and fractured a year and a half in. But so my understanding is the normal rally around the flag that pretty much every president has had is already faded out fast, and that at least in terms of generic ballot voting, there's no. It's getting worse rather than better.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted before because it just kind of dawned on me, man. I'm looking at, because we track, unlike so many others, we track, and I'm looking at the post State of the Union bump that we found, and then this happened, and then he engaged in this conflict, and then what I'm saying is, I think I figured this out. I don't think. I track myself and I trust my own data more than I trust everybody else's. So what looks to be a war bump in like Real Clear Politics aggregate or Decision Desk's average is not really a war bump. It's the tail, most of it. I think he got like a 2-point bump from the war. That's it. It's most of it is still the tail end of the State of the Union bump, which he has now completely squandered. We had a bump. We had something, and I even told them this. This is something we can build on. This was a positive reaction. I clearly see a bump. I went on Charlie Kirk as it was requested. Will you go on and explain this? I did. I said, let's pivot to the domestic. You and I did the 1776 Law Project poll. We had a slew of policies that they could have pivoted to and they could have done. Trump didn't want to do this. Let's stop with these fake 4D chess theories by people who are somewhat like intelligent, like Victor Davis Hanson, an otherwise intelligent person trying to pretend this is about some grand strategy to hurt China. Just stop it. Anyone familiar with the president's thinking knows that he didn't want to do this. He was under enormous pressure. He got dog walked by Bibi into doing this. And at the last minute, he convinced himself, knowing full well what the poll said, he convinced himself that he could pull this off the way he pulled off Maduro, and that would be it. This is what happened, guys. All right. So I'm not entertaining your fantasies. If you are like listening to anybody saying, I guarantee you they have no insight into the actual administration and what the president's thinking was. He just out of nowhere decided he couldn't push back the pressure, and I need to rationalize. He's a human being, like everyone, all of us. And he did what humans do. He rationalized in his mind how to make it make sense to himself because he decided he couldn't withstand the pressure. That is what really happened here, despite his top military advisor saying, I don't think so. I don't know. Because he said that was his last question. What are the odds that we could do this and pull this off and that this will be over fast and that we can win this thing like a Maduro win politically? And he said, I don't know. And the president did it anyway. So Max Blumenthal, speaking of which, is totally right. It is beyond debate whether or not we were dog walked by Israel into this war. That is what happened. That is what the history books will say. And unfortunately, here's the problem, man. And I don't know how you fix this at this point. I once upon a time did know. I just don't know unless you unless you publicly humiliate Benjamin Netanyahu and you publicly put him back into his place. By the way, Mr. President, the same Benjamin Netanyahu who threw you to the wolves after the 2020 election, the same Benjamin Netanyahu who didn't stand by your side and said, oh, well, Biden's the president. Let me kiss his ass now. All right. Like, this is who that guy was. Let's not forget. He may be your boy now, but he kicked your ass to the curb so fast after you lost that, knowing, by the way, what the Chinese did. It's not the Venezuelans. Okay. Conspiracy people, it was China. All right, which you would know about if the president wasn't so distracted, his administration wasn't so distracted. This information should have been out months ago. Now, so many people are mad at him. I don't think anybody will care. Like they have these grand ideas that when they blow up what happened in 2020, it's going to fix everything. They really believe this. And then Americans are going to be like, oh man, that's horrible. We got to rally behind Trump because of what they did 6 years ago. No. That's not going to happen. So many people will already say, I don't care. They're mad. And you can actually see his strong approval tick up because this happens during times of war. But his overall approval is, in our polling, higher than it's ever been. His disapproval, excuse me, is higher than it's ever been. And his strongly disapprove is damn near 50%. So I don't know how to change this perception. And it is that you got dog walked into this. Your BB's in control, not you. You humiliated the United States. This is not a war that we like, because Americans do see Iran as like a threat. They just didn't see them as an existential threat that we had to act on right this second. And like younger people didn't care at all. They just didn't care at all. They were, you know what's a threat to me? I can't buy a home. You know what's a threat to me? I can't pay my student loans back. You know what's a threat to me? I can't make my car payment. When am I going to be able to have a family? When am I going to be able to live the American dream that the boomers lived 4 times more than any other generation before them? Tucker's right. This is a generation that took so much and gave so little. They can't understand why young people don't agree with them on these issues. It's stunning to me. I hope when I'm older, Robert, when it comes my time, all right, I hope that I am not delusional and I'm not so cruel and unable to understand, you know what I'm saying? The way that they are clearly able to, they're not able to understand. And also I'm going to pull up the generic ballot with the combined with the phone. It's bad, bro. It's really bad. I mean, you guys can't see it yet? No, here, I'll scroll down a second. I don't want to show everything yet. By the way, it's a Trump 1.4 recalled vote. So it's perfect. The recalled vote is perfect. Here is combined phone and panel. And we, of course, have to go through panel checks because panels have a lot of garbage in them. You have to, you have to make sure. Look at it, Robert, 46-38. 46-38. Republicans are getting absolutely crushed.
Democrats are on pace for the biggest win in the modern era. Bigger than 06, bigger than 08, bigger than any prior time. And probably heading for a double-digit win. If Trump were to get us out of Iran within the next week or two, he could mitigate the losses if he took the 1776 Law Center agenda items and pushed them aggressively. He can drive down the losses. I don't think at this point he can erase the losses, but he could mitigate them. But if we're still in this war by April and it continues, then he's on pace for getting into the 30s in approval. A majority of the country that absolutely hates him, very unfavorable rating. And he's heading to a Nixon 74, George W. Bush 2008 kind of incredibly low approval ratings. Highly likely, almost guaranteed to get impeached, and even at risk of conviction.
Oh, he'll be removed this time, Robert. I'm talking to these people. Some of them are salivating and can't wait to remove him. That's the truth. And they do have one dude at the White House who basically is counting votes. He's deeply concerned, and he doesn't support what the current strategy has been, which is the current strategy leading to him not endorsing Ken Paxton right now. They did not agree that if we support these people, they will have our back when impeachment comes. They had the opposite. They had our view, which is that this day was always going to come. The only chance you had is if you kept the people on your side, and if you got rid of enough of them, that you had enough Ken Paxtons. Like, that's it. Once they realize that Donald Trump has nothing left for them to offer and he's going to lame duck mode, they will remove him. John Cornyn is absolutely an impeachment vote waiting to happen. Lindsey Graham, their so-called Democrat whisperer, their secret weapon, is going to vote to impeach him. Bookmark it. It's going to happen. Lindsey Graham would have turned on him in 2020, brother, but Mitch McConnell couldn't give him a guarantee that Donald Trump wouldn't be back and give him massive problems. That is the only reason so many of those senators didn't break ranks. Mitt Romney, why? Because he was done, and he knew he was done. That you could just take Mitt Romney as a template for all these sons of bitches, and that is how they will vote. This is the saddest part about it. Like, so many people he's back in Thune, it's no big deal. It's a huge deal. Oh, he's back in this one, it's no big deal. This is Trump trying to make allies, doing what he does best. No, Donald Trump does that best in the business world. Donald Trump has yet to fully comprehend how the political world works, which is where they are pits of vipers, and that that disgusting cesspool of a town, and they will turn on you in an instant. And just so, again, let me put this up for everybody to see. This is certain to vote and likely to vote. Republicans aren't even breaking 40% at this point. It is very bad. And by the way, why? Because it's a likely voter model 8 months out, 9 months out from an election, and so many of them are saying someone else are undecided. Well, guess what? They won't be. They won't vote. They're going to fall out of the likely voter screen, and that margin is going to turn to 52-42, 52-40. That's what that margin is going to turn to. Once pollsters start tightening the voter screens and pissed off MAGA is not in the equation anymore, it's just going to be so ugly. This is and people who think like that I think bothers me the most, man. Yeah, you spend your personal money to fund polls to try to help them out because you want them to fail. I spent a personal family fortune over the last 10 years to make sure that he had fair polls and accurate polls in the marketplace, and people did. Like the country did, because I wanted him to fail. Like, you are the tiniest little brains in this country. People who talk like that. You're the tiniest little brains. And by the way, little warning for everybody else. They forgot, and I can't believe it because you weren't out of power this long. You forgot the first rule to being a Republican or right-leaning actor in this space, especially in DC. You are held to different standards. What you are doing wrong right now will not stay a secret. If you have sold yourself right now for short-term gain, it will not stay a secret, and it will be out. All will be revealed, and you will be wrecked. So I will predict this space is going to be considerably smaller after November, my friend. Considerably smaller, because Democrats are going to have a field day. A field day. It's and it's sad. This isn't fun to watch. It's tragic.
Yeah, speaking of which, two other topics for we wrap for today. The Rich will hang around and answer any questions or comments. I got to hop over at 1 on the Charlie Kirk show to remind people of what Charlie was warning people about.
I want to watch that. Do I have to answer the questions? I have been waiting for this interview for weeks, bro.
Yeah, so but yeah, to the point. So one, on the fake polls, the people were asking me, where's Trump getting what Tucker reported with this 90-10 approval on everything? And it's 3 different sources. One is Tony Fabrizio, the president's pollster. He has a long history of doing fake polls whenever the president wants him to do, or any person wants him to do it, including for people he's secretly lobbying for, by the way. Probably engaged in ongoing criminal conduct, Tony Fabrizio, because he's not registering to lobby, to my knowledge, for people that are being publicly reported he's lobbying for.
Christ, I hope that's not... Oh God!
I know. And then the second category, these are the fake polls that are going to come from the Israel lobby, of which there are many. They have a wide range of pollsters on short dial who will happily do fake polls for them. But now they have media backing with Barry Weiss and CBS. That's, as you documented, YouGov. They took the same YouGov panel. The Economist printed one point of data, and then all of a sudden, totally the opposite from CBS.
Same data.
The Israel lobby owns CBS now, owns Paramount, is about to own Warner Brothers and CNN. And so you're going to see tons of fake polls come from those sources as well. The third source are former Republican high-profile pollsters who took the bribe or felt intimidated. So they were made a pitch of, hey, if you do the polls we want to see, and don't be critical on the Epstein files and the Israel war, then we will make sure you get big, fat Republican PAC contracts. If you don't, Pam Bondi will maybe start looking into you criminally. So that was literally the gangster approach of what is becoming the Trump administration, unfortunately. It's modus operandi. So you will see from people that you're used to seeing reliable polls from, they're not going to be reliable polls, unfortunately. And as that happens, I'm going to keep calling it out. And, we have the receipts. You're not seeing any of those people deny what I'm saying.
There are dead bodies coming in right now. Yeah, that's all I'll say. Like, there are dead bodies coming in right now. So I'm not defending myself yet from these attacks. Of course we do. Of course we do. Of course, we would never say that. Of course we do. And listen, I'm telling you, there's going to be a reckoning. I'm promising a reckoning right now, because I feel look, I just don't respond well to threats, and I'd rather go down, bro. Like I'd rather burn than deal with that or just shut up. What's the entire point of the People's Pundit if I just shut up? What's the point? What's
Well,
the
and the
point?
second
What am I
part
doing?
is
What am I doing here?
the other thing that we've been warning about. Now, one, we can take a victory lap on, but if they'd listened to us, they never would have been in that situation. But Kristi Noem is out. What we talked about, I think we were the only people on the right talking about it.
That's it.
We've been talking about it for over 6 months. As soon as we knew that Democrats already knew, so there was no reason to keep a lid on it.
That's when we waited until they knew. That's right.
Yeah, as soon as they knew, it made no sense to stay quiet about it. Kristi Noem was having an affair with special government employee Corey Lewandowski, and was lining his pockets and his pals and friends and their allies' pockets with no bid or low bid, 0-1 bid contracts into the tunes of hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. They all knew about it. So there are all kinds of ethics violations, all kinds of crimes, frankly, being committed by Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski. And they finally got outed. The president finally realized how big it was building. Democrats weren't going to hold back on it anymore. While she was sabotaging the immigration agenda by not doing her job in a whole range of contexts, that was what pushed him into recognizing this other problem was a burgeoning problem. She is now out. This is confirmation. Like, remember all the people pushed back on us? We were making it up.
Oh,
we had fake sources. So some of these that pretend to be pollsters themselves and what having political predictors themselves. Where's the apology? I'm waiting for that apology.
Yeah, real men apologize, Robert. Real men apologize. Real men did what you did on social media on Saturday. I was wrong. I defended them against these people who said they would get us into a greater war. I was wrong. Take my lumps. We have videos. I'm not deleting videos. We were wrong. Real men apologize. What the hell happened to that?
I know. Well, these guys are not capable of doing that. But
they're clowns, bro.
The problem we warned about with Kristi Noem that blew up on the president and he had to get rid of her, but it's still not fully gone away because he should have get rid of her from the whole administration. As long as she's around, there's trouble because they can they think they can impeach her wherever she's at, bring in all these scandals to tar and feather the president. The second big risk point that makes Kristi Noem look like an amateur in terms of corruption is the pay-for-play Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche Dubois at the Justice Department. Today it was announced, which everybody in the antitrust community knew this was coming the moment they got Gail Slater out, that they would cut a sweetheart deal with Live Nation because Live Nation, that's been jacking up ticket prices with antitrust monopoly repeat bad actors, hired, according to published reports, corrupt criminal felony failed to register lobbyist Mike Davis, his pal Arthur Schwartz, who, by the way, was also named with Laura Loomer in a pay-for-play scheme involving pardons by the New York Times, that these people are treating the Justice Department as a personal cash register for corrupt corporate whores like Mike Davis. And now it's being announced the DOJ is walking away from the trial, doing a sweetheart settlement with Live Nation. And, I mean, by the way, on a separate point, Emerald Robinson confirmed the same thing we said. The White House is buying off and intimidating pollsters, and right-leaning pollsters do fake polls.
I can say I am not the source of that.
Correct, exactly. Nor am I the source of that.
I am not.
She has her own independent, corroborative sources. Everybody in this world.
My response was no comment right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're dead. Because there are kids coming home dead, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I'm look, Emerald's doing her job. That's it. Just can't blame her for it. I'm glad she's doing it, frankly.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm waiting until the time where I feel it's appropriate. I was a veteran. I was hoping, as a millennial veteran, I would never have to see young men come home in flag-draped coffins for somebody else's war ever again, or at least not in my lifetime. I thought that was the entire point of America First, but we're here now. So, out of respect, I'm waiting, and by the way, one of these people who got caught up in some of this disgusting shit, she's the one who convinced me to wait until the kids come, stop, the bodies stop rolling. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for those that haven't followed the backstory, the antitrust division is cutting sweetheart deals whenever a big corporation hires lobbyists like Mike Davis, who don't then register as a lobbyist, so the world doesn't know. Sometimes getting paid millions of dollars to basically completely sabotage the Justice Department's antitrust division's efficacy And in the process, they're committing often high crimes. The next big merger they're likely to approve that may bring the entire Trump administration down over time is the deal for Paramount to buy Warner Brothers, which would include buying, this would be Ellison, father and son, buying the
Part of the
buying
Israel
CNN.
lobby.
I mean, they would control.
Yep.
Yeah, they would control Warner Brothers. They would control Paramount. They would control CBS. They would control CNN and a whole bunch of other networks. And they're the Israel lobby is what the Larry Ellison, he's the founder and owner of Oracle, has long been a big promoter of. And this is done at Trump's behest in part. The antitrust division should block it. They won't, is my guess. And they have hired, I believe they haven't even properly, they won't even properly disclose them in their Tunney filings, is my prediction. Their involvement with, because they may have laundered the money through Oracle on behalf of Paramount to get this deal through. And so you combine these deals, it's going to make the Trump Justice Department go down as the most corrupt Justice Department, which is impressive given the corruption under Biden, but also the corruption under many prior administrations in American history. And we've been warning and warning. We warned about Kristi Noem. They didn't heed it until at the last possible minute after public humiliating embarrassment. And there's still residual risk because she's still around when she should be nowhere near anywhere in the cabinet of any kind or the federal government official of any kind. She should just go run for the Senate or something. Exactly. And then it's much, much worse at the Justice Department. Much, much worse for pay-for-play Pam. So my advice to the president, cut bait, get out of the war, get rid of these Israel lobby, corporate whore influenced individuals in all aspects of your administration. Put somebody in Secretary of War that's competent and capable, not unethical and a lunatic like Haig's death. Get out of the Iran war. Get rid of pay-for-play Pam and the whole Justice Department. Return to your OG MAGA wife and embrace the 1776 Law Center and other agenda that's very popular with your base and with the independents. And then you can have a chance to recover. But otherwise, I'm off to
we're going to watch
Charlie's show.
I got it ready and loaded. I'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to follow Robert. We're going to watch that interview live, actually, when it comes on. I'm going to keep my eye on it. Actually, maybe I'll put it up right now. I'll put it up on X this way when it comes time and he's on. I know they're talking about the raids in Maricopa, which is super interesting. But when it comes on, we will watch it. All right, while we go through this thing. I can see it in the corner of my eye over here, and we'll go from there. Yeah, look, this is the thing. Like when we were warning about these things, the biggest problem we had is that you're going to damage the president. You're going to damage the president's agenda. This is, I think, to some degree now, unavoidable. They waited too long to get Kristi Noem out. She should absolutely go run for the Senate. That is her best way. Not only to get away from hurting the president any further, because once he found out, he was like, goodbye. The moment really that she lost her job was when Kennedy signaled that he would absolutely vote to remove her. She's got caught in a lie. There's private conversations to prove that she was lying. She lied under oath and about the campaign ads. Guys, they spent $250 million to boost her own favorability image, which didn't work. They still lost the ICE narrative. I sat right there and gave what is the right advice, the easiest advice, and the best advice on how to fight back against the ICE narrative, which they didn't realize they were losing because they were so distracted with Bibi all the time and this lobby to get into this war. And they didn't heed it. They ran $250 million, making her, like, I don't know, aggrandizing her. And the sad part about it is Trump accomplished so much on the immigration front, and it will overshadow all of it. That's how politics works. By the way, real quick before I get to Utiz's 4321, a post I put on X2 that's important is guys have to look around at other people. You may not like to watch CNN. You may not like to watch MSNBC or MS Now, right? But you have to know what the other side is doing in order to understand what is going on with the narrative war. And this was clear as day over the weekend. There's CNN floating between the body count tickers and the gas price ticker. This is what they do. They cheerlead Republican wars, Republican presidents into unpopular wars, and then they do that. and they destroy your coalition. They annihilate your coalition. And it's the worst part about it, and this is the stigma Trump's going to have to. I think it's probably impossible to get rid of. Honestly, I do. At this point, I don't know. There's no right answer. But Trump's going to deal with this for the rest, like this tarnish for the rest of his presidency and his legacy, because he was the president who was supposed to resist all this. He was the president who wasn't supposed to bend the lobbies. He was the president who was supposed to be able to fight the military-industrial complex, and instead he caved. He caved. And that will be an added bonus for the CNN crowd, for the MS Now crowd. It will make it all that much easier to sell. And again, we did this mishandling with the Epstein stuff that rolled right into this. They created layers upon layers for this narrative and this stain, and it's going to be impossible. By the way, that's why the right is losing the meme war right now. Memes are only effective when they're true. The left can't meme for shit. It's easy to meme this. They're getting crushed in the meme wars. And by the way, a lot of people who were on the right are memeing them into oblivion because it's just too easy, because it is true. Sad. And by the way, again, sometimes I think people mistake, Robert too, that we want to say these things. We enjoy saying these things. We don't. We don't. But I stay true to myself, so to say, or at least, guys, we always try to. And it wasn't in our, we didn't took no pleasure in saying Kristi Noem's corrupt. She's banging Corey Lewandowski, and in order to keep it quiet, she's giving Corey's wife and her husband sweetheart deals. Now it's in the New York Post, calling him a cuckold. Again, where are the reply guys' apologies? Never coming, because they're paid to post. X is a cesspool of this shit. We need a fairer law for social media. X is the only one, by the way. If you go on TikTok, if you go on Instagram, if you go on Facebook, X is the only one where that environment is created, because that's the only place they chose to target it. They just figured they'd buy TikTok. And again, this is something I know, because I spoke to national security officials when they called and asked me all about the trend with young Republicans and how to stop it. And my answer was completely misused. Instead, they drew the conclusion, we're going to buy TikTok. And we're going to start policing what they view to be anti-Semitism. A genocide in Gaza, calling out a genocide in Gaza is not anti-Semitic. Trump is the great traitor to the Trump coalition. Thank God he is the last boomer president. Oof. I read them all, unless they're impossible for me to put on the screen. The talk of a draft has got to be heavily damaging, extremely damaging. I don't know what Caroline Leavitt was thinking. It's almost like everyone who surrounds Trump is trying to destroy him. I hire the smartest people. Really? And I like Caroline, but that was incredibly stupid, especially for a war that nobody believes is worth dying for. That's why the Conscientious Observer hotline is blowing up right now. The left tried to make a big deal about that during the Iraq War, I remember, and it was like nothing. It was nothing. This is something. I don't want to get him in trouble, but I spoke to 2 recruiters the other day. They were outside at a uniform in the middle of the day throwing a football. Why? Because they said nobody's going to sign up to die for this. That's number one. Number 2, they didn't want to sign anybody up to die for this. Have you ever heard recruiters talk like that? Nope. A draft? Holy shit, man. Got a couple from Cynic, and she always got some good ones. Comic idea, BB shows a collar and ball gag to Barnes, who says, nah, I'm done. Then BB shows it to Trump, and then BB is leading Trump around. Oh, my God. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? Is Barnes on yet? I know Barnes is coming on soon. I see Andrew teeing it up here. I think Barnes is coming up here real soon. Oh, my God. Jeez. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There they are. Let's do this.
Great to see you. You have emerged as a very strident voice online, political commentator that is not in favor of the strikes that are happening in
Piloting
Iran.
your
Why
show,
don't you
Andrew.
give us your perspective? Because you are a MAGA guy in a lot of ways. You have been part of this coalition, a big supporter of the president's, but you are not in support of this war. It's important that we hear this side of the argument. What is your perspective on it, and why are you against it?
So I see it as a threefold approach. One is the domestic political risk that it poses to the Trump 2024 coalition going forward in terms of political capital to get things done on the Hill, but also in terms of the midterms and in ultimately 2028. The second area of concern is geopolitical. In other words, how likely are we able to achieve an objective that would be favorable to American interest and would be perceived as favorable to American interest going forward? And then third is whether or not this is a use of our military that is constitutional, that is clearly legal and lawful, and that won't put our men and women in an undue risk of harm for a unachievable objective. So from the domestic political side, I just think it fractures the Trump 2024 base. It shrinks MAGA. More and more people are not identifying as MAGA. That's why you can get I think Richard Baris calls People's Pundit, calls it purification through subtraction. So Trump may look at it and say, I have 90% support, but it's of a shrinking base.
Yep.
That's not a good situation to be in politically in terms of domestic political capital to get things done on the Hill, but also in terms of the midterms. There was a big part of his base that was anti-war. There was another part of his base that's libertarian, that leans non-intervention. Since 2015, he's campaigned very effectively as the peace president, the anti-war candidate. This undermines and sabotages that entire public perception and thereby impairs his coalition from an electoral perspective and political capital. In other words, the degree to which he is seen as unpopular on the Hill limits his ability to get things done legislatively. But then you go to the geopolitics of it, and it's for all the reasons and the military side of it that Charlie identified last year. That you dig into this, it's unlikely that we could attain a peaceful, free Iranian society and government through bombing them into such an agreement. And so, as he pointed out, that the Shia are built on a culture of suffering. Charlie was very good at developing strategic empathy. And people sometimes confuse that with sympathy. It's you don't sympathize with the Iranian regime. You can strategically empathize with it so that you understand it. And if you understand the culture and the people in power, but also the people that could contest or challenge that power, then you have a sense of how probable or likely a sequence of events are using military or martial means. And what Charlie identified is that they have the means to militarily resist in ways that we cannot completely suppress, that they're unlikely to change their regime because the part of the Shia Islam, I mean, Charlie loved to study religions around the world and understand what motivated people around the world. But the Shia Islam religion is built on martyrdom. It's built on suffering. It's built on sacrifice. That's why the Ayatollah was happy to be martyred at the beginning of this conflict. And he's now been replaced by his son. His son, who is more, this is one of the points Charlie made, that you got to look at who is likely to replace the existing regime. And there you look at who is likely to replace him. Well, it's more hardliners, people that are more likely to acquire nuclear weapons rather than less, more likely to be anti-U.S. and anti-Israel than less. The new Ayatollah just had the Americans and the Israelis kill his father, kill his mother, kill his wife, kill his son, and kill his niece, 1-year-old niece. So what's the likelihood he's going to be really pro-American? Unlikely. He's known as more of a hardliner, et cetera. So then you have so that's, scenario number one is that it's unlikely to achieve a peaceful, free, democratic, pro-Israel, pro-U.S. regime. So why are we risking American resources? Why are we risking American men and women? Why are we risking Trump's domestic political coalition and his political capital?
Yeah, and I guess I feel like there's a lot of disagreement over how much it is splitting the coalition, because you can produce polls that say support for the war among GOP voters is very high. I've seen those. But I think a thing people are missing is that this matters the most with that sort of that marginal, maybe that last 10% of the Trump coalition
Yes,
that got
Blake.
him
10%.
to where he
Yes.
where he was winning all the swing states, where he was winning the popular
Yes,
vote.
Blake.
It was the people where that,
Yes.
oh, peace president, no new war, that
Yes.
stuff appealed to them a lot more. And I think that a lot of, when people disagree with this, they're missing that that's the group that, and they're also the most marginal. They were least likely to respond to polls,
Yes.
and they're more detached. They maybe weren't voting in other elections.
And young people.
And young people.
Yes.
And young people. So I Robert, you and I talked on the phone, and we had these students from Rutgers and Appalachian State, and we asked them, what do young Trump voters think of this? And here was their answers: 306.
Oh yeah, my homegirls.
Copy. So are you seeing protests? Are people gathering in the square and the quad? What kind of activities are you seeing this manifest in?
I'm mostly seeing things through online platforms, people on Instagram or Twitter, just, really going in at President Trump and being upset that, gas prices might go up and forever war. Like, people really, really do not want boots on the ground in this circumstance.
Are you seeing that even from people that voted for Trump in 2024, or is it still mostly from people would be left wing regardless? Or
I think the idea of starting a new foreign war is really, even
fun.
for Trump voters, really deterring people from wanting to align with the administration and their actions.
I'm just pirating this shit.
So even amongst Trump voters, and then the other gal that was on said the same thing at her university. So the youth vote came plus 13% in our direction, which is a huge swing, historic swing.
Never happened.
And this seems to indicate that we are in jeopardy, if not already before that, with some of the Epstein stuff, the Midnight Hammer stuff, of alienating those new additions to the coalition already. Robert Barnes, we got about 50 seconds left in this segment.
Yeah, exactly to your point. I mean, you guys would be on top of it more than others. I remember watching the live that the young generation, the new MAGA part of the coalition, a lot of them were African-American male voters, Hispanic voters, and young people, disproportionately millennials and Zoomers, that joined the Trump coalition in 2024 that weren't part of it before, that boosted us from being -4 to +1 in the national vote, that allowed for the sweep of the swing states, that allowed for some coattails in the House and the Senate, to have the House and the Senate. So that's what's at danger of losing. Young voters do not support this conflict. They don't want us involved in foreign conflicts, period. So the sooner the president can bring us home, the better. Similar, and then the other vote is the historic anti-war vote, disproportionately in rural and working class areas in the industrial and rural Midwest, and amongst Hispanic voters in the Southwest, which were bleeding out badly, as we saw from the Texas primary results, and then the libertarian vote. And it's just... You can't cut off this many parts of your coalition and survive.
Well, and so in the next segment, Robert, I want to paint a rosier picture, if there is one. I want to talk about how this needs to go next. What needs to happen for us to kind of bring this back home? Because I agree with your assessment here. Let me quickly tell you about Blackout Coffee.
You tell them about Blackout Coffee. I'm going to go ahead and say, woo! That was exactly right. Oh my God, exactly right. And unfortunately, when you're saying like 4 points in the popular vote, 5 points from losing, it's more than that, from losing by like 4.5 to winning by 1.5, it's about 6 points. But in truth, when you look at just the shrinkage in the Trump coalition before the conflict itself, you're looking at about, and I say about because the median was 18%. I went back and did this. The median was about 18% shrinkage before the war. And now this war is certainly... Why? I mean, why do we know it's going to hurt? Because it was the constant focus on foreign policy, the constant focus on Iran and Israel's needs. That is what did it. And the Epstein situation reinforced that this is because of Israel. And whether you agree with that or not, I don't really give a shit. It's not debatable. We were right. You were wrong. We're smaller now. We're losing because you didn't listen. Debate over. Debate over. Now let's see how to shorten the period of the darkness, which we can tune into when they come back from that. I'm not sure how much more time they got in that break. Probably a while. Looks like 2 minutes or so. I can see their countdown clock. All right. Now listen to a good discussion this weekend. Two people who left evangelicalism for high church denominations in part because of Zionism. I know many people myself, cynic in chief. That's a great comment. I know Barnes and I have tried to talk about this a lot. Gallup has done a lot of research on this. Many people have done research on this. The Christmas poll is an annual reminder that Zionism is killing the body of Christ in this country. And as a Protestant, as somebody who views himself as an evangelical Protestant, I was a Catholic. I know a lot of people who we're losing to Catholicism. I know a lot of people, and it's weird because I don't know why some people, and listen, if you're a Catholic, it's what I'm not saying anything. I think because there is a branch of Catholicism that this is heresy, and I would argue don't leave Protestantism because of it, or whatever your faith is. And I hate even being calling Protestant, to be honest with you. I like the idea of Martin Luther and the protest against the church. I believe it really was like foundational to the three planks of the ideology of the American Revolution. And they were very, very skeptical of the Catholic Church. They didn't like the papacy at all. They thought they were constantly under conspiracy from the papal threat. But whatever, it is what it is. I don't even like being called denominations of any sort. That's why I became a non-denominational evangelical, I think is a better way to say it. Which I wasn't a very good evangelical until Scott Adams, who I busted his balls at the end, and so did others. And thank God, I take that as a win. But the fact is, this is killing the body of Christ in the country. It has been for years, along with the scandals from all of these Ziocon grifters like Jimmy Swaggart and Hagee and the rest of them. Swalwell. They're Falwell. Excuse me, Swalwell. It's just a fact. It's provable through decades of public opinion data. It's not only killed religious affiliation, it has deeply harmed religious attendance services. This is not debatable either. We know this. All right, they are back. Let's listen in and we'll get back to your questions. All right. Yeah, let's listen in. All right, don't look at me. What's going on here? Come on there, killer. Yeah, to the stage. Thank you. They're selling merch. All right, when they come back with Robert, then I'll do it. Life of Brian. Oh, can a question be formulated to capture what each faction thinks is the Constitution's purpose? It feels like no one added civics in high school. We have done something like that in the past. I don't think we've done anything like that since 2020. We did some with the Epoch Times. That was really cool stuff. But yeah, that's a good idea, and I think that's a worthy endeavor. I do. Let's see if I can sneak one more in before, because I think it is worth listening to what Rob. Oh, he's back. I think it's worth listening to what Robert says is the way to right this shit. Let's listen.
Supply shock. Then it's going to become even more painful, right? Oil was up at I think $110. It's come back down under 100 since last time I checked it. But it's no doubt this has political ramifications. I think Matt Walsh was the one who said it, that if we bombed Iran and we achieved our missional objective there, and yet we lost the presidency or the midterms, it wouldn't be worth it to him. Okay. This is a series of impossible decisions.
We believe that.
What needs to happen and how quickly, Robert Barnes, for this to come out as good as it possibly could be?
Yeah, I think the first part is, declare victory and leave. The president did that with the Houthis when we didn't quite achieve the original objective, but he realized that it was unlikely to be achieved. So he just declared victory and left. Vice President Vance has been giving the president an off-ramp all the way through. Say, look, the real focus of this was always about nuclear weapons, not about regime change, not about dictating to Iran its next supreme leader, not about any of the things that other people like Lindsey Graham want to drag the president into doing. One thing I would recommend is just have Lindsey Graham off the air, him running around saying, let's go to Cuba, let's go.
Robert, I keep saying the exact same thing. If you follow me on X, I've just been like, get this guy away from the freaking microphone.
Yes.
For the love. He's like frothing at the mouth. He's like, anyways, continue. I cut you off.
Paul Dance.
Please.
Yeah, and to remind people out there, Charlie said if we did anything, we need to defeat Lindsey Graham in the primary. You got two good candidates running there, Mark Lynch and Paul Dans. So I highly recommend that whichever candidate you like, but just we got to have Lindsey Graham out of there. He's a walking, talking disaster, PR-wise for the president, but also policy-wise.
He's going to kill.
So I think, take J.D. Vance's recommended, the declare victory, say apparently we hit several of the last remaining nuclear enrichment facilities, including the new ones.
We're done.
He took out the Ayatollah. Declare victory and go home.
Take the W.
And get out as quickly as you can. Because the longer this drags on, as you know, the more political risk develops in the U.S. and the more geopolitical risk comes about in the Middle East. If they start hitting desalination plants, if they keep the Straits of Hormuz closed, not only does oil and natural gas prices spike, but also you could have a drought and a food crisis throughout the Gulf states because they depend, many of them, for the Straits of Hormuz to get access to their food. So the people forget, that it's all desert there in the Gulf states. So that's why they rely on desalination plants, including Israel does. I think it's in Israel's best interest that we get out of this quicker rather than, because who knows if Iran really thinks they're under existential threat, we don't want to know what they might do. They might hit everything. They might hit all the oil gas refinery places. They might hit all the desalination plants. They might hit the nuclear reactors.
I don't mean to cut you off again, but Blake was bringing up a point. Apparently that was the one line Lindsey Graham wasn't prepared to cross.
Please don't blow up all of their oil stuff. Like, they're going to need that after the war is over.
So even Lindsey Graham was chastising Israel for going after the refineries. But yes, continue.
Exactly. So essentially, there's just lots of exponential geopolitical risks that this could get out of hand really fast. What if Israel feels they're under existential threat? Do they use nuclear weapons? Pakistan has said if they use nuclear weapons, Pakistan will use nuclear weapons. So this is just, the Mideast is a place that can quickly and easily, as Charlie repeatedly reminded people, get out of control. You might have the best, and the temptation of any president is to double down. Trump has always been brilliant in recognizing I'm in trouble, time to get out. People forget the Sun Tzu principle, which is when the enemy is stronger, you retreat. You don't walk into a trap that gets you mired down. That's the mistake George W. Bush made. That's the mistake past politicians have made.
So, Robert, just to play devil's advocate here, though, President Trump has said he doesn't like the new Ayatollah. Not happy with that.
Yeah.
He said he wants to be involved in the selection of the next leader.
Not gonna
somebody
happen.
that'll be friendly with America. And he also said that, essentially he believes he needs to finish the job because he doesn't trust future presidents to that they will do the right thing in the future. He said, I don't want to be fighting them and come back in 5 years or in 10 years. Got to get it done the right way now. How do you balance those two things, still declare a political and a military victory?
I think the great gift of Trump is that he can declare victory even when it's not apparent that by his own standards he got it. He's a brilliant salesman. He's always been a brilliant salesman. So my advice to the president is just sell it. I think American people would be happy with that. Say, look, we took out the regime that caused a lot of harm. We took out all their nuclear capacity.
Yep.
And on that basis, we'll be satisfied for
Peace
now.
out.
And then try to re-enter. I think it'll be tricky to re-enter negotiations, but try to. I think otherwise, I just look as a risk-reward ratio. What's the probability you get that reward of a peaceful, free, democratic Iran governed by someone other than the supreme leader that is not driven by Shia Islamic beliefs structure versus what risk do you have to incur to try to get that reward? I think the chance of that reward is low. The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, reported that it was not likely to occur, that military means could achieve regime change that can really only happen with a complete cultural shift amongst the Iranian population, in particular Shia Islamic population. And so that's part one, is how do you assess the probability of obtaining that objective? And then what risk are you accruing? You're basically, as Matt Walsh pointed out, even if he could obtain that reward, is it worth sacrificing the entire Trump OG MAGA 2024 coalition? Is it worth sacrificing the populist conservative realignment back to America's constitutional republic and religious roots? Is it worth risking the SAVE Act? Is it worth risking all of his domestic policy agenda? Is it worth risking being impeached in 2027 with a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate? My own view is I don't assess the reward probability as high, and I assess the risk probability is very high. And so I think the risk reward weigh out that ratio.
Amen.
I think it's in the best interest of the president. Maybe down the road you can pursue that, but now is it the time given the risk that's accruing and the reward seems distant. And I think if he shifts back to a domestic agenda, 1776 Law Center, we did a nationwide survey, get rid of all this immunity for big pharma and these big ag and big companies and government actors when they violate people's civil rights and civil liberties, impose tariffs, but take away the individual income tax on 95% of American households. That was popular even with some Democrats. There's all these populist policies he can pursue and enforce and enact if he's not distracted or detoured by a foreign war. So I think when you weigh the risk-reward ratio, I think it favors the president finding an exit ramp as quickly and expeditiously as he can so he can shift back to the domestic agenda that can restore the coalition and at least mitigate the harm that's coming in the midterms.
Robert Barnes, well said. Great perspective. Thank you, sir. We'll have you on again soon.
What? That was totally it. I mean, that was it. I mean, couldn't have said it better myself, I will notice this. I will say this. There was a couple of things I wanted to mention. One, Trump said, I don't trust future presidents to do this, that. Well, what the hell is your obligation? Are you the president of Israel or are you the president of the United States? I don't trust future presidents not to throw my ass in jail. I don't trust future presidents to right the ship at all, to stop the $40 trillion bleed. I don't trust future presidents to make my children not stick harmful chemicals into their body. I don't trust future presidents to not steal elections. All right. So what is more important? This is why I did the entire video that I did when I knew it was over and that the debate, at least at the White House, had been lost. The debate in public had clearly, the anti-war side clearly won that debate, but I knew it was lost at the White House. So that day I did that so I could have a video to harken back to when all of this goes to shit, which is that where do your loyalties lie? You cannot be some big mouth like me who screams into a microphone about the danger of the Democratic Party and put another country's interest first. The coalition had to be your top priority. Blake said it beautifully. That was a great interview. They got to the heart of the matter, the crux of the matter. And if you watch the Matt Gaetz interview that I did, I put it up on Locals for free. You could go watch the whole segment on One American News that I did with Matt Gaetz on his show. We got to the heart of it as well. Listen, it's sad, as bad as this sounds, it is 100% true. Not all voters matter as much as others, period. All right. You can get to 45% pretty easily in a right-wing coalition in this country. What you can't get to is 50+1. And those voters that got you from losing a popular national vote by 4.5 points to a 1.5 point roughly win matter more. It's also true that those voters are younger and they are the future of the country. If you want to win elections in the future, they matter more. So putting aside whether or not you think that their economic and political challenges at home matter more than threats, existential or otherwise, to the nation of Israel, putting aside that question, which I think should be a 90-10 divide in this country. Unfortunately, it's not. We have found out through all of this that there are a lot of people who are not loyal to the United States, and a lot of them are on the right. It's very clear that a lot of these big mouth cons, big con personalities who have been screaming into microphones for 30 years, even 10 years, even 20 years, they don't put America or Americans first. They don't give two shits about your problems at home. They don't care that you can't afford a home. They have 3 of them. How on earth would you expect somebody like Ben Shapiro to empathize with your personal economic problems and challenges when you can find little video clips of little Benji this big on Larry King talking about how he wants to be the first Orthodox Supreme Court justice, and oh, by the way, look at how beautiful I play my violin. You didn't have that life growing up. 95% of the country didn't have that life growing up. Why on earth would you ever think he could empathize? What an absolute joke. And they have proven themselves to care far more about the nation of Israel and what's in their interests than at home. They don't blend together. This country is a dying empire. We don't have the luxury of pretending like that lie is true anymore. And if you sat in on the focus group that I did, you would know that everybody agrees. Except for, of course, the 65-plussers who still listen to that guy. Or guys like him. The best comp for Trump in geopolitics is Zelensky. His handlers give him a TV show to push him as a peace candidate and set up the double cross. I can't tell you how many times that parallel has been drawn in the last 72 hours. Very, very good observation, Life of Brian. And I hate that. I hate it. By the way, when Barnes was giving his interview, I put something up because Laura and I were watching it. Has anyone gone and looked at the trailer to Melania, the documentary that's on Prime? If you have Prime Video, you can go watch it right now. Go look at the trailer. Just hover over it. Hover over it. Once you get through the 3 rows of Epstein documentaries that you have to get past in order to get to Melania, and you watch the trailer, you will see what I'm talking about. They completely humiliate him. You know what they're talking about? It's a wife and husband talking about the legacy. Short clip. What do you want your legacy to be, Donald? The peace president, honey. I'm going to be the peace president. Humiliating. Did you watch it? Congratulations, Mr. President. She said, I love Melania. I love her. I love everything about her. Not because she's pretty, because I just love her style, her personality, the way she handles stuff. So funny. Did you watch it? He's talking about the win. I won, honey. Did you watch it? No, I didn't. So funny. So funny. And she says, what do you want your legacy to be? I want to be known as the peace president. Well, where the hell are we now? That's dead forever. You'll be getting mocked like that forever. Like, it'll be Bush lied, people died. No new wars, no wars in the Middle East for oil will now be no wars in the Middle East for Israel. Forever. How long do the odds say the U.S.-Iran war likely lasts? I saw that question while Barnes was doing his thing. I went and I looked, and I saw, will Iran effectively close the Straits of Hormuz before 27 August for a certain amount of time? U.S.-Iran nuclear deal before 2027, before August. Will the United States recognize Reza Pahlavi, whatever? This guy's a fucking joke. Will Reza Pahlavi visit Iran this year? Guy's never stepped in Iran, I don't think. I don't think he's ever stepped in. Guy grew up in the United States, educated in the United States. There's nothing Iranian about it. The idea this guy could lead Iran is a joke. Will Reza Pahlavi lead Iran? So, will Iran become a democracy? Who will visit Iran before July? Will Donald Trump visit Iran? Will the U.S. reopen its embassy in Iran? Iran versus Egypt in a war? Will Iran hold presidential elections? I just don't see. What will Caroline Leavitt say in the next press conference? If you said there will be a draft, boy, payout. And then on predicted, that was Kalshi. And then on predicted, Iran action approval before March 16th. That's the Congress. So I don't really see a market about that. That's a good question. I just don't see an actual market that stops that. That says, that specifically. The boomer cons and plan trusters need to move to Israel and join the IDF. Well, Larry can join the IDF. She's young enough. Go fucking fight. You want to fight Turkey next? You better go join the IDF, because I'm not sending my fucking son to do that. Fuck you. You're Laura. Hey, no, I'm serious. He's just coming of age. Oh, no. I will have him join Space Force before that shit. No, I did not go through everything that I went through after 9/11 for my son to be taken by bullshit. No way. No chance. I will send him to Brazil. I will pick up the phone and I will ask Bukele to hide him before I allow that to happen. This is not worth it. Now, you want to bang out with China? Let's go. You take me back if you'll have me at my age. Not this shit. No way. Dementia Dawn has destroyed any black male vote that Republicans even gained. No wonder black votes for Democrats, no matter what. My mom was cooking me. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. I know. I get it. I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's going to be very difficult now for young black men to defend themselves being Trump supporters and defend themselves ever voting Republican again, which is why they're not. And we can see that they're not participating in Republican primaries at all. Hardly at all. I know people who had campaign strategies in black belt counties to go after Trump's African-American vote share of that part of his coalition who have completely abandoned it because they know that there's no point. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to run back there and say, I'm the Trumpian candidate in the race, back me? Like what? What does that mean? You're going to bend over for BB too? No, thank you. I can't explain to you how bad this damage will be. I can't even articulate it. That's why all of those Hispanics are gone now. They're gone. You want to see the Hispanic vote? You want to see Trump's approval rating among Hispanics? Oh my God. It's so bad. So bad. As a matter of fact, I'm curious. I'm going to look right now if you guys don't mind. Let's see what they're voting for on the generic ballot. This should be fun. 39. It's like, guys, it's like 30-60. It's bad. We're back to Mitt Romney days. Democrat plus like 20 on the generic ballot. That's awesome. But Republicans did get 2 more interviews than Democrats on the deciders, on the leaners. Very important to stay out of foreign wars and conflict. Would you look at this? 54%. 26% who say it's somewhat important. 7% of Hispanics say it is not at all important to stay out of foreign wars and military conflicts. Not very important is only 8. So you're literally looking at 80% of Hispanics who say that. And who do they trust more to keep them out of those wars? Democrats by 20, 48-28. Does Israel have too much influence? Yeah. Israel has too much influence plus 35 over just about right. Did Trump give his, did Trump give an argument that clearly articulates whether or not, it was worth getting into this war? Absolutely, positively not. So bad. It's just terrible. It's so sad because I was like so proud. Why? Because to me, a more unified coalition means a more unified country. Narrowing the urban-rural gap is narrowing unrest in civil society. Did you guys hear that dementia? Obviously, Stephen, you listened to Reverend Al Sharpton give his eulogy of Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jackson, right? Damaging, very damaging, very damaging. Noam also harmed Trump through her incompetence in running ICE here in Minnesota. Absolutely, she did. Legal immigrants shipped off to Texas and left to find their way back here. I mean, we all know the horror stories. Was it a lot? No, but she's totally incompetent, damaging to say the least. Like they just did nothing. She blew $250 million on ads for ICE that nobody has seen except for herself, like about herself. They didn't do anything we told them to do. Humanize the ICE agents. Take the masks off. Show them as family members, fathers, husbands, community members. The number one trusted basically institution left outside of the U.S. military in this country is local police departments and law enforcement. The FBI and the CIA, different story. You know from the poll, it's up if you guys didn't go look. Trust in institutions for the FBI and the CIA cratered. But somehow, Kristi Noem managed to make ICE less popular than the FBI, who not engaged in one, but 2 attempted coups of a duly elected president. Again, some of this stuff at this point, not debatable anymore. If you're still reply guying it on social media because you're getting paid a couple $100 to post it, you're a scumbag and you're stupid. I think very low. I think very low. I think that they tried to do this. There would be a massive backlash. Massive backlash. They would never survive that. They pull something like that because we don't, just so people understand, we don't have the army for a ground invasion. We don't have it. We don't. You know how many soldiers? Over 300,000 for the invasion of Iraq. Thank you. Thanks for what you do. Appreciate you all what you do. So I guess appreciate you as always. Thank you. It's been a rough one. I got to tell you, just another Patty. It's been a rough one. It's been a rough couple of months. When you rebut lying about eyesight to get into the military, tie it to when it was done during World War II. For those who don't know what he's talking about, that's USA Now on locals. Yeah, Laura and I were doing it. I was doing a road rage, and Laura and I were talking about, we were having a little bit of a debate. I definitely couldn't see crap before I got my LASIK surgery. That's why I used to wear glasses. But when I got into the military, for multiple reasons, including getting punched in my face too many times and hurting the sphincters that open and close light to receive light in your eyes, I couldn't see jack. I was like living through the world in clouds. And I just had to know what cloud looked like what, you know, which I did. And I did amazing. But when I was going into intake, and I went into the 18 X-ray program immediately when I went into the Army, and I ran into a woman. It was obviously doing my eyesight test. I wasn't colorblind. You can't be colorblind to be in an ODA. And that was fine, but I couldn't see shit. And I just flirted my way past her. So like they were joking during the road rage. Like if I ever run for office, they're going to be like, you lied your way into the military. What else is Rich willing to lie about? And I got that all planned out. I totally agree with USA Now. That is so easy. I just wanted to serve my country. Okay, I dare you to come at me like that. Plus USA Now, they're going to have tons of other stuff, you know, that they could go after me for, which is going to be hilarious. Rich is right. Being called anti-Semitic is no different than being called a racist or any other ism. No one gives a boop what you call us anymore. Get boop with the cacti in if you do. Good stuff, Ryan. Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Just a total joke now. And the worst part is they desensitized it, Ryan. So if there is this sweeping rise of anti-Semitism in this country, they'll have completely desensitized anybody from giving a shit. Question for Barnes and me. How is AIPAC different from the German American Fund? The scale. I mean, AIPAC is definitely not the only, certainly not the only so-called domestic people who support a foreign nation. It's just the scale of it. AIPAC is, and of course, money buys you what. So their tentacles are way, 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 way deeper and bipartisan. So for all you idiots out there running around shilling for Israel, understand something. They're buying Democrats right now. Tons of them. They're not loyal to you, the right. I mean, you haven't figured that out yet. It's hilarious. They're not loyal to you at all. At all. They have one loyalty, and it's not to the United States of America. Oh my God, he's an anti-Semite. He just said it. I'll say it 80 times in a row if you want me to. AIPAC is a disaster for this country. All PACs like that are disasters for this country. They should all be forced to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And the amount of money that's been pumped into our system since the October 23 attack on Israel by AIPAC is an abomination. Nobody should be spending money like that. Big oil doesn't spend money like that. I tried sending an email to the producer, but it bounced back saying the inbox is full. Yeah, can you just send it through the locals thing? That goes right to me, Ginger. Like a local support message will go right to me, and then I will send it back to you. Okay, and then you'll see my. Just don't give it away, but you'll see my email. Yeah. Just send it through the support thing on locals. Rich, how can we in South Carolina avoid Mark Lynch and Paul Dance from spoiling the GOP primary against Graham? You got to pick one. You got to pick one. Personally, I think Mark Lynch, I disagree with Robert on this. I think Mark Lynch would become a hack in a year. Mark Lynch doesn't have the spine to stand up in Washington. I'm sorry. I'm sure he's a lovely man. I've seen a million of these people, folks, come and go. He will turn into Tel Aviv Ted Cruz within the year. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I don't even... I'm not a wagering kind of guy. I'm not a gambling kind of guy. I would bet you if he was the nominee, I will bet somebody that. We will have a big bet. I will guarantee you he'll turn into like Tom Tillis in a second. A second. Paul, on the other hand, has a spine, and I know it. Paul was like last man standing trying to defend Trump against the election fraud in 2020. That really separated the boys from the men. That did. They all abandoned Donald Trump. All of them. Dread Robert. I love his comments because he always brings it back down, and I think I know where he's going here. Trump picked Noam, Bondi, Susie, Ratcliffe. He prefers incompetent, of executive his campaign agenda, corrupt people to be in his administration, and judging by his endorsements and other statements, he wants them in Congress. I never thought I would miss Mark Meadows. Is there any reason to believe he's actually wants honest, capable people who will try and deliver his campaign promises, or does he want to turn everything to Rubio and Wiles? Ellison, Adelson, Gates, all. Yeah, look, and that's Bill Gates, not Matt Gates. I think Donald Trump, I have my own philosophy on what happened to Donald Trump, or ideas, I mean. I think that lawfare spooked Trump, the Trumps, not just Donald Trump, the Trumps. I think lawfare spooked them bad. I think the idea of a chain being on Trump Tower in New York City scared the shit out of them. And I think that they want to get theirs while they can. And in order to do that, you got to let other people get theirs around you. So I hate to say that, but I think that that is true. And Donald Trump is thinking about what it's going to be like for him when he's not president again. So that doesn't look good for us. That doesn't bode well for us. And I can't say I really blame him. I blame him for this then. If you were going to do that, then why did you even do it? Why did you even do it? Why didn't you just take the first 6 months as a great legacy ender and then pass it to JD and let JD just do the right thing? Like, why did you do this? So you could have a place in Gaza that they won't extradite you when the Democrats come after you again? Like, the new Gaza? Like, I agree with Robert. You can't keep blaming all of these people. And frankly, I'm no fan of Susie Wiles. I've never been someone who defended her like crazy like this, but like, I'm sick of people like Scapegoat and Susie Wiles for everything. Like, who the hell is in charge here? It's not Susie's fault. She's the chief of staff. It's the man's fault for letting anything like that happen. Period. End of story. It's just fact. It's just true. And by the way, if Susie leaves after the midterms, it's not surprising. She's already in the position almost as long as the average tenure for a chief of staff. It's one of the highest turnover jobs. Over the weekend, I put up 4 notables, which were interesting. Harry Truman had 1 chief of staff, 34-month unfinished term of John Kennedy. Old Jackie Boy also had 1 chief of staff. And then Barack Obama and George W. Bush both had single term chief of staff, but that's not normal. Chief of staffs, Ron Klain, he burned out super fast. They go quick. All right. So Susie's basically already she's only a few months shy of what the average tenure is. She's about 4 months shy, I believe. It's 18 months roughly, and they don't last much longer than that. So the midterms would put her squarely past the average tenure. All right, we got one more here before we bounce. It's from Owen. The AIPAC people are American citizens that aren't loyal to America. Of course they aren't loyal to left or right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. True. Just the way that Robert and I have to admit that we were wrong about basically Israel and the Israel lobby abusing the Trump coalition and betraying it by putting themselves before the needs of these people who have been so very good to them. We were wrong about that. They were always going to try to drag us into a greater conflict, which I didn't think they wouldn't do. They're an expansionist power that has surrounded the way that Nazi Germany was surrounded. Oh my God, you're comparing Israel to Nazi Germany. Yup. I'm a realist. And anybody who's been in my book club knows we read The Tragedy of Great Power Politics together, did we not? They are an encircled expansionist power. What do encircled expansionist powers do? They conquer. They expand their territory. They expand the buffers. Alsace-Lorraine becomes not enough anymore. I think I'll just take some of France. Turkey is next. That's another thing. I said months and months and months ago, and all the lying reply guys paid to posters, they all said, that's bullshit, he's making it up. No, I wasn't. Obviously, someone very high in the administration and I had a conversation, and they proceeded to tell me how fucking crazy Netanyahu is. Turkey's next. The president hasn't even greenlit Iran yet, and they're already massaging us about Turkey, which, by the way, is a NATO ally. Here's the funny thing. We wouldn't have been able to conduct their last stupid Middle Eastern war if not for Turkey. Without their participation, the Iraq invasion, which they've also pushed us into, would never have happened. I think people need to read some history books. Leafy Bug, then I'm out. Hey, Rich, someone you're friendly with, but who outed themselves as a rabid Israel firster, he's a good storyteller, Barnes will know who I'm talking about, had a subtle dig at you with a post titled Inside the Real Numbers, Trump 50 job approval, citing Trafalgar. These pollsters are filling the room with carbon monoxide, and guys like this will keep breathing deeply and won't even notice when they're asphyxiating until they've passed out. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's really funny. Again, like they listen, I'm not going to, like Barnes, he'll say what he's going to say, and I'm certainly not going to put Barnes on a leash. I've obviously been more reserved, but I will say this, and I'm being texted about this very thing right now. It's a reporter. Everyone will have to defend themselves very soon. And for those who decided that they were going to take like a side in this because it benefited their side without knowing what is going on, will be burned. And guess who will survive? Me! Ta-da! Yup! I said this from the beginning. At first, I was like, you know what? It is what it is. People will make up their decision. They'll make their choice. They'll have to live with it. And then, like, I don't know. Then it got personal against me, you know? And you'll find out what I mean by that even more so than what you think you might already see on, like, social media. It got personal. Like, they tried to do something to me. And I decided I don't fucking like that. And now I'm going to win this fight. Not only am I going to win it, I'm going to end careers. I'm going to end careers. So I would be very, very careful if I were other people looking for, but what was he doing though? Like, I think I know who you're talking about, Leafy Bug. I'm not sure, but I don't need to know specifically to ask this. Like, effectively, what was he doing by doing that? Was he using his logic or his reason at all and saying, damn, Rich has been the best? Rich has been around longer than the other ones too. Rich is the only one who even has the data to study states and national data sets and trends dealing with these coalitions. Because I am the only one. Even though there were some other pollsters that have done decent during the Trump era, I'm the only one that predates 2016, definitely does 2016, and has been a national and state pollster. Some of these other guys are recent national pollsters. Go try to find a national poll from them in 2016. You will not find one. We had a tracking poll. They did not. Was he using his logic or his ability, his God-given reason to discern what may or may not be the wisest thing to claim or do? No. He was searching for an affirmation. He wanted something that affirmed his view, not necessarily, not necessarily. He wasn't at all searching for the truth or the right view. And unfortunately, that is a very bad mistake. I even have to consciously guard against doing this myself. It's a flaw within all humans. We all do this, and we have to guard against it better. Otherwise, we could end up being burned. And unfortunately, that person will be burned because he picked the wrong one, right? It is what it is. And again, I don't have to say anything. There are already reporters on it. I haven't said anything. I'm not a source for anybody. All right. I'm just telling you this. No matter, look, the right has to understand that they have to be on their best behavior when they're in power. They are held to different standards. They don't get away with things that Democrats get away with. And this doesn't even give me any, honestly, yes, some of it will give me pleasure, actually, but some of it will not. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, hurt by this. And I certainly don't want to see any, especially with my side of things. What have I essentially been doing for 10 years in this industry, guys? I have been trying to rebuild public trust. And this is not helping it. This is not helping it. All right, it's 1:58. I'm gonna kick rocks and go bother a market site to make sure that this is done, because I have to get into my data sets and put out my own polling and do other things because I need the data set for the book. I got lots of stuff going on here. All right. How long until Ukraine war stops because of Israel? But we're running out of ammunition. Jeez. So, oh my God, Cynic in Chief. If you guys aren't on YouTube, you need to go and look at Cynic in Chief's final comment, his final super chat. It's a $2 super chat, and thank you for that. And everybody who did give tips, super chats, Rumble rants. But if you want to laugh, go look at Cynic in Chief's final super chat comment, which I can't put on the screen, but it's hilarious. If Barnes was still here, I'd do it. But look, Gray, I think at some point here they're gonna have to come to the table because we're done. We're broke. The missiles are gone. What are we gonna buy? We're talking about buying back shitty Ukraine interceptors, made by. They get to keep ours and use them. Probably have already, and we get to buy back shitty Ukrainian ones. Good deal. That's so MAGA. That's so MAGA. That's so America first, dude. Totally right. I don't know why I cannot get out of here. I guess I'm going to have to, this thing kind of farted out on me here. I'm about to put the craziest thing on the screen and it's going to be weird. Oh, it's working now. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to get out of here. Don't forget, Kentucky 4 is up, the public polling project. The link's in the description. I think we've raised $3,000 already. So, you know how it is. We're probably never going to hit the target. But when we do get a little closer, obviously I'm going to do it. I want to pull the race. So that's up there. Don't forget to follow us, Robert, over at sportspicks.locals.com. That's obviously the best place to follow him, but he's on at Barnes Law on X and everywhere else. Of course, I am the People's Pundit, and my handle is at Peoples_Pundit, at Peoples_Pundit, except for on Truth, where there's no underscore. Don't forget to follow my Instagram, which is new. And the longer you guys take to follow it and build it up, the longer my daughter will make fun of me. So at Peoples_Pundit, almost 500,000 followers on X, and I can't get to 1,000 Instagram followers. What the hell is this? The best place is always to follow me is on Locals. peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. We'll see you for Inside the Numbers on Wednesday. And of course, the road rages in between. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, nothing but love for you. All right, keep your heads up. See you later.